Wow, I think it's on now. So this live is really just well, I wouldn't call it a test even. It's really just a video preparation for some, I guess, user testing we want to do. Plus, I want to use this opportunity to learn something. So here we go. Smartly. So yeah, I'm gonna continue with my Smartly course and take it from there. Let me log in first. I'm the candidate. Return to the dashboard. All good, all good. Should probably play required course. Corporate governance? I'm surprised. Okay, corporate governance it is. I guess I have to do this week, so I might as well. Corporate governance is about surveying the systems and relationships through which an organization is controlled and directed. There are in total 2 chapters, and let's get started. The first one is why corporations need governance. Really. Okay, let's see. In early 2001, Enron was sitting pretty. Wait, what? Fortune magazine had named America's most innovative company. Never heard of them. Oh, it's an energy and communications company during the 1990s. It placed 7th on the Fortune 500 list, but thanks to a breakdown in corporate governance, it went bankrupt in December of that year. Well, this is crazy. Corporate governance and why do corporations need it? The simplest definition of corporate governance describes it as the system by which corporations are directed and controlled. The system attempts to balance the interests of the firm's many stakeholders, those who... I realize this slide probably doesn't have a description. People are super confused. How do I change that? Can I add that feature? Chat. Okay, I'm gonna write a comment. Maybe that's gonna be it. Test live learning. Smartly corporate cover. So, continue. The system attempts to balance the interests of the firm's many stakeholders, those who own shares of stock. Oh, what? Can affect or be affected by firm sector. Stakeholder. Okay, fine. Governance systems can protect many different stakeholders, but chief among these are shareholders, individuals or institutions that own shares of stock in a corporation. Although corporate governance applies to firms with a variety of ownership structures, in this course we'll focus solely on publicly traded, widely held corporations. In other words, we'll look at firms with publicly traded, thousands or even millions of different stakeholders. In contrast, closely held firms have an individual owner, small group, Warren Buffett's holding company, Berkshire Hathaway. No, he tried so hard to name it right. Corporate governance systems vary in structure among firms. Two of the primary governance systems are a board of directors to govern management and an external auditor to audit financial statements. One of the main reasons corporations need governance systems is that a corporation's ownership is separate from its control. This creates conflicts of interest that corporate governance helps manage. Can you identify who owns a company and who controls it? Shareholders own the company. Managers control the company. Why do you think corporations keep ownership and control separate, despite some significant drawbacks to this model? Drawbacks. Discuss principal agent problem, thinking CEOs who abuse their position for personal gain. Oh well. It shields shareholders from legal liability from any malfeasance of the company. Allows corporation keeping existing even if secret. Increases risk exposure. It mitigates the potential conflict of interest. I agree. It tries to. Oh no. Okay. Shields shareholders from legal liability. Oh, Tatsun, hello. By the way, the apprentice thing, I read the description carefully. It seems like they're only covering the training costs, not the salary. Can I bring Tatsun on camera? Let me try this. How does these features work? So I don't know, shields shareholders from legal liability, any malfeasance of the company. Great. Okay, so here we go. In addition to managers and shareholders, what other groups do you think might influence corporate governance systems? Okay. Creditors, yes, of course. Firms that the corporation is thinking of acquiring. No. Labor unions. Yes. Customers, no. Right? Customer may not have a direct ownership stake in the company, but they can certainly affect its performance and therefore its governance practices. Okay, all right. Suppliers? No. Even suppliers? You're saying everyone? Investment analysts? Yes. Publish comments about firms, shareholders, and media? Yes, of course. Regulators? Yes. So basically everything. Okay, all right. Two fundamentally different philosophies about a corporation's purpose and responsibilities. Has two different views about how corporations should be governed. First view is the shareholder perspective. Holds that company's main duty is to maximize shareholder value. From the shareholder perspective, corporate governance exists to prevent managers from stealing from the company, from stealing from shareholders. Okay, sure. Approach to governance in North America, UK, and Australia. The laws generally reinforcing this perspective. Public sentiment shifting, known as the stakeholder perspective. Okay, this other view expects governance systems to balance the interests of a firm's many stakeholders, such as employees. Laws generally reinforce this view in continental Europe and Asia, and the corporations are expected to have a societal obligation beyond increasing shareholder values. Okay, appreciate that. Governance systems that follow different perspectives, diverging their practices. The following practices reflect a shareholder perspective or a stakeholder perspective. Okay, a corporation's employees have board representations, definitely stakeholder perspective. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission was created to give investors access to basic facts about their investments. Investors access to basic facts about their investment. Basic facts. Okay, Securities and Exchange Commission was created to give investors access to basic facts about their investments. Stakeholder? Shareholder. Okay. Certain countries have mandated employee participation in major corporation decisions in their constitutions. Stakeholder. In the broadest view of corporate governance, the subject concerns a corporation's relationship with its stakeholders and society. What degree do you think corporations in your country act fairly and responsibly? I don't trust them. They exploit work. Wait, what? Sure. According to 57% of executives in North America and Western Europe were optimistic compared to 44% of the public. Interesting. Continue. As corporations have grown in power over the last few decades, governments and customers have become suspicious of corporate influence on their communities. This distrust has fueled public interest in governance and led to growing pressure on firms to take care of all stakeholders, even in traditionally shareholder-dominant countries. Okay. Match the key terms with their descriptions. Corporate governance, a system by which the corporations are directly controlled. Shareholder perspective, the corporation's main duties increase shareholder value. Stakeholder perspective, the view that corporations have a societal obligation beyond increasing shareholder value. Awesome. Okay, one chapter done. Not one chapter, it's only one lesson, actually. And agency problem. Okay, the agency problem. What agency problems and agency costs are, how governance system attempt to mitigate agency problems through executive compensation, efforts to reform executive compensation. Okay. As we learned, the separation of ownership and control in a corporation creates potential for a conflict of interest. Enron executives, for example, burned their shareholders by cooking the books. Can governance systems mitigate such problems? Enron scandal is a classic example of the agency problem. In a principal-agent relationship, one party, the principal, contracts with someone else, the agent, to make decisions on his or her behalf. For example, in the Enron case, the principals or the shareholders, agents, or the managers. Okay, principal contracts someone else to make decisions on his or her behalf. Interesting. The agency problem occurs when the principal agent problem. We touched on the subject in the lesson asymmetric information as part of microeconomics. Did we? Don't remember. Okay. Occurs when agents are inclined to act in their own best interests instead of those of their principals. Corporate governance, the agency problem usually refers to when the interests of the firm's management and shareholders diverge. Agency problems can also occur in many other different types of situations. Can you identify who the principals and agents are in each relationship? Okay, sure. So principals, clients, agents, lawyers. Sure. Principals, employers, agents, employees. Employer appoints employees to act on her behalf, whether or not the employee does so is another story. Principals. Voters are the principals. They hire politicians. Sure. Agency problems occur when agents don't internalize the costs of their own decisions. Sure. Think about the last time you went out for a meal and your company picked up the tab. Did you order something more expensive than you normally would if you were paying yourself? The costs that arise from agency problems are agency costs. Decide whether the following statements describe agency costs. In 2002, Tyco paid half of the $2.1 million bill for the 40th birthday party of CEO. Wow. Held on the Italian island. The after party includes an ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David urinating vodka and the Jamie Buffett concert. Oh wow. This is definitely agency cost. Delta Airlines bought a 49% stake in Virgin Atlantic Airways, allowing two airlines to coordinate the schedule and pricing across North Atlantic. Something else. Shareholders sued Health South Corp. CEO Richard Scrushy over accounting fraud. Scrushy was found guilty and ordered to pay the company $2.88 billion in restitution. Okay, interesting. Agency cost. On March 2nd, 2017, Snap, the parent company of Snapchat, went public. The IPO was 12 times oversubscribed, meaning that there were 12 times more orders for shares than there were shares offered. Something else? How is that? Okay. As is the case in most agency relationships, the parties had asymmetrical information in both the title and health loss examples. That's because in public companies, the shareholders, the managers know far more than the shareholders. Managers also hold more power than the shareholders because there are many diverse shareholders whose interests diverge from each other. Around how many shares outstanding would you guess a large company like General Electric has? 100 million? Big enough for a good lottery jackpot? Wow. GE actually has 8.67 billion shares outstanding, divided among millions of shareholders. With ownership that diffuse, shareholders need management to make decisions for them. But how can shareholders be sure that management will act in their best interest? Managers might do the right thing. Corporations attempt to provide concrete incentives in executives' compensation plans to motivate them to perform appropriately and discourage self-interested behavior. What other purpose do you think an executive compensation plan serves? To attract executives with the right skill sets and experience. Beyond annual salary, the executive compensation package generally includes additional incentives. Match each type of incentive with its description. Annual bonuses, additional from yearly performance and specific targets, stock options, the right to buy stock in front, future and fixed price, perquisites, amenities provided by the firm, such as club membership. Interesting. Uh-oh. Annual bonus motivate executives to increase shareholder value in the short term. Bonuses can also incentivize executives to behave in unfavorable ways. Behaviors might be focusing too much on short term, focusing too much on manipulating accounting results to achieve targets. Firms use stock incentives to encourage executives to make long-term investments. Stock options which allow employees to buy stock at a set strike price, encourage CEOs to increase the value of stock above the strike price. A firm may even offer options worth a certain percentage more than the market price. Similarly, firms may offer options that vest when the price hits a certain performance metric. They may also award restricted shares, stock that is given to employees for free. It is not transferable until certain conditions have been met. Offering options or shares encourages CEOs to make strategic decisions that will raise the stock price. A bit about executive compensation package. Let's hear what you think. Ideally, how much do you think CEOs should make relative to unskilled factory workers? Okay. Believe in income equality. The pay ratio. Ooh. What's a good ratio relative to unskilled factory workers? Maybe 150. 20 to 1. Okay. 2015 CEO to worker pay ratio for companies listed on the CSP. 335 to 1. That's a lot. Okay. Wow, I can't believe this. 335 to 1. That's how much Fortune 500 company makes. Okay, so this is alright, so seems excessive to you. You're not alone. Many critics have denounced the large gap between CEO pay and average pay. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission require firms to improve disclosure of executives. Proxy statement. Firms interest. Listed shareholder votes. Several countries, including Australia and Germany and the U.S., have adopted say on pay, a rule giving shareholders a vote in compensation. Legislative bodies have placed strict limits. Congress disowns firms that receive federal money through the Troubled Asset Relief Program. Sure. Time for review. Match these terms with its description. Agency problem. Agency problem, a conflict of interest wherein one party makes decisions on behalf of another. Stock option. It's a right to buy stock in the firm in the future at a fixed price. Perquisites is extra amenities provided by the firm. Proxy statement. A statement required of firm proxy statement. A statement required of firms when they solicit shareholder votes. Say on pay, shareholders cast non-binding votes on executive and director compensation. Let's see. Understand the agency problem, executive compensation. Well primed to learn about executive self-interested behavior. Right, okay. Lesson Self-interested behaviors. Awesome. Learn what corporate events could signal an issue with agency problem. At Conglomerate Corp, there are two rules. Keep the shareholders happy by any means necessary. Get your own piece of pie. Is the company doomed? What are the warning signs? Significant agency problem could be lurking beneath the surface. As you will recall, the agency problem occurs when agents who are hired by principals to act in their interests instead of acting in self-interested ways. In corporate governance, this usually refers to when managers act in their own interests rather than in those of their shareholders. In thinking about the agency problem, it's important to remember that not all negative corporate events are caused by self-interested behaviors. However, the frequency of these events is often correlated with management putting their own interests ahead of the company. The following events could result from the agency problem. Increasing CEO salary or stock prices decrease. Erroneous financial statements. Class action lawsuits. What do these negative corporate events have in common? At worst, they can be indicative of deceptive or even fraudulent practices. When managers participate in self-interest behavior, they may use fraudulent practices to hide their wrongdoing from shareholders. Declaring bankruptcy is a way for public companies to recover from crippling debt. Sometimes companies go into debt because of managers' fraudulent practices. Of the 1,118 companies that filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy between 2004 and 2013, about 10% were subject to SEC's investigation or fraud. Okay, that's, over 10 years, only about 100 companies are suspected of fraudulent behaviors, but that's 10%, maybe 10%. 100 companies in the US, it's really not much. Another red flag for agency problems are Foreign Corrupt Practices Act violation. So it makes it illegal for any employee of a company listed on the US national security exchanges to pay foreign officials in exchange for business opportunities. Curb illicit practices such as bribery and accounting fraud. SEC and the U.S. Department of Justice filed around 30 foreign corrupt practices Act enforcement action every year between 2004 and 2013 to U.S. listed corporations, and this trend continues to rise. In 2016, Bush InBev used third-party sales and I'm not saying it right. And Bush InBev used third-party sales prompters to pay off Indian government officials. Wait, what? Third-party sales promoters? to pay government officials. I don't get it. What? Wait, what? Third-party sales promoters to pay off Indian government officials? Yeah, confused. In 2008, Bernie Madoff was convicted of luring investors into a fraudulent scheme by guaranteeing yearly high returns. Wow. This is definitely a violation. It's not a violation. This is definitely illegal, but because Madoff wasn't bribing foreign officials to further his business. Okay, so it has to be foreign officials to be considered FCPA. Wow. Okay. In 2010, a subsidiary of NATCO Group, NATCO, was caught creating and accepting false documents and paying extorted immigration fines in Kazakhstan. Okay. Extorted immigration fines. Something else. No, my judgment is so wrong. No. Okay. 2001, director of Veteran Affairs Hospital in Louisiana agreed to push through a VA contract for a local vendor in exchange for a personal laptop. Definitely buy it. No, it's not foreign, so something else. Overseas trip. Chad witnessed his boss presenting lavish gifts to the cruisers in Patagonia. Sure, violation. Whew. A financial statement is another red flag, which occurs when a company's previous financial statement is revised and republished. Although some restatements are needed because of honest errors, they can also result from one statements are needed because it can also manipulation of earnings by senior manager or personal gain. Out of almost 8,700 financial restatement between 2005 and 2012, so in 7 years, how many do you know that were considered serious enough to render all of a company's previous statements unreliable by the Center for Audit Quality? How many do you think were considered serious enough to render all of a company's previous? I don't know. 10%. What's the answer? Over 50% of restatements between 2005 and 2011. Manager risk getting audited, charged with fraud because they are under pressure, make accurate predictions about future earnings and deliver on those targets for shareholders. Sometimes senior managers' self-interest can also be the impetus behind a merger or acquisition. Managers are compensated level of education, in part firm size. There is financial incentive to expand the firm, receive transaction bonus, merger acquisition. I'm just gonna finish this one lesson and quit. For example, in 1999, in 1999, a merger was announced between Sprint and MCI WorldCom. Sprint executives had a severance deal triggered by a vote in favor of the merger. The vote succeeded, but the merger was rejected by the FTC, meaning shareholders got stuck with a failed deal and expensive executive bonuses. Too many shareholders to seem like a corporate move. Offices. Okay, sure. Another way for managers to manipulate their earnings for personal gain is through stock options backdating, or changing the date when a stock option was issued to increase its value. Okay, interesting. While this practice isn't illegal, it can be problematic for shareholders if it's not disclosed because it obscures amount of compensation employees receive. Conglomerate group employees receive a stock option priced at $10 per share. If the employee exercises that option by the time the price rises to $15, the stock option is worth $5. However, if that stock option is backdated to a period when the stock was trading at $8, exercising the employee's option at the time would worth $7 per share. Interesting. Companies can use backdating to pay executives more than what they report as expenses to shareholders. This can reduce company earnings and could even lead to a financial restatement or damage a company's reputation. In 2007, SEC filed charges against 2 executives at Apple for backdating stock options, leading to an unreported shortfall of $20 million in profit. Crazy. In addition to poor practices, certain behavior attitudes have also been determined by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner. Crazy. To be red flags for potential fraud. Can intuit which of the following personal behaviors might lead to agency problems. Personal financial difficulties. Agency problems. Sure. Lack of living beyond one's means. Alright, so sense of loyalty to the company. Definitely not. Wait, what? Which of the following personal behavior might lead to agency problems? Unusually close relationship with customers or vendors. Lack of willingness to share duties. Myopia has control issues. They may feel personally responsible for losses in earnings and may try to fix them by any means necessary. Interesting. Actually, that's okay. Continue, almost done with this one. Determine whether Conglomercorp may have an underlying problem with managerial self-interested behavior. Gerald works long hours in the financial division, followed by lavish dinners and nights out with his co-workers. 3 a.m. he crawls into bed on a pool sofa in his mother's basement. In order to retain his top-notch CEO, backdating, increasing their value by 10 per share. Discuss this. They discuss this practice. If they disclose it, maybe there's no problem. Recently, Martha, an advertising executive, has been working very closely with one particular customer, Papa Polly's pre-owned Priuses? What? Today, she pulled up to work in a decked-out 2017 Prius and bragged to her coworkers about a customer service tip. Oh, definitely a problem. While overseeing the acquisition of an overseas subsidiary, Anne is encouraged to follow local customs and preferences. Her Smartlandian counterpart indicates to her that the acquisition process could be streamlined with a well-timed gift to a particular official. Definitely a problem. Okay, awesome. Done this. Remember, individuals are not uniformly self-interested, and many will not misbehave, even if the misdeed will likely not be detected. However, agency problems are not uncommon. Their cost can be substantial. A recent study estimates a 14.5% probability that a company will engage in fraud at a 22% cost of the firm's enterprise value to investors. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot. All right, I think that's it for today. 3 lessons, almost done with 1 chapter. Should I just power through? One last lesson. Let's see how long it's exam time. Okay, I'll take the exam now. Gadgets and gizmos aplenty. Test your knowledge of agency problem, shareholder views, and the purpose of corporate governance. She just found out that she inherited a huge amount of stock in Do That, manufacturing her great uncle Bob founded. Has never owned stock before, calls you to help look into her new investment. Unfortunately, Do That isn't doing well as corporate governance, that is, the system that directs and controls the company, is ineffective. That means it's failing to balance the needs of its stakeholders or those who can affect or be affected by the firm's actions. Margaret wants to know what her role as a shareholder will be at Do That. So you sketch a diagram of a typical governance system for her. Can you fill in the blanks below? Sure. Shareholders own the company. Elect CEO, oversees a board of directors, oversees management, and select the CEO, runs the company. And additional stakeholders influence board of directors, influence CEO, independent auditors, verifies finances. Even though I own a big part of the business, I don't get to run it. Why is that? Margaret asks. Select the reasons for keeping ownership and control separate. Protects shareholders from being liable. Prevents conflict of Oh. Oh, keeping ownership and control separate. Wait, what? Oh, right, sure. Keeping them separate. As a shareholder, Margaret wants to know if the company's main responsibility is to increase the values of their shares. Tells her two perspectives and corporate purpose. Ooh. Okay, so this one, stakeholder, associated locations. Continental Europe and Asia. Shareholder, mostly the US, UK, and Australia. Doodad is an American firm. It takes the shareholder view. Which of the following is likely to be true of Doodad? Influence labor union representatives. Unlikely. Publishes the annual report for investors. Fits. Uses stock incentives to motivate executives. Fits. Sure, we get a vote. You want Margaret that just because you won? Okay. Doodad's management is supposed to act in the interest of shareholders. Doesn't mean it always does. The agency problem occurs when an agent operating on behalf of a principal. Okay, see on behalf of okay. Rumors are flying about Doodad CEO Drew Hickey, and Margaret wants to know if his actions are a result of the agency problem. Categorize the following scenarios. Hickey often refers to his assistant as sweetheart. Oh no, that's gross. Wait. I meant it's a problem, not agency-related problem. Doodad had to file a financial rate statement twice in the last 5 years. Indicate but not proof. Hickey backdated his stock options, but he did not disclose this to shareholders. The company experienced an unreported shortfall of $5 million as a result. Direct result of agency problem. Doodad might have to file for bankruptcy because he spent $3 million of the company's money on around the world yacht trip for his family. Direct result, terrible. Companies under investigation. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Acquired a move that financial analysts praised, resulting in significant increased profit, also a raise for Hickey. Not a problem. Okay. Almost there. Doodad CEO Drew has made some interesting choices, worried that these actions in English CEO of Widgets to Watchets, a supplier for Doodad, often goes out for drinks. Thank him for his Rolex. Rolex is too much. Hickey handles most of the financial aspects of the business himself. He's reluctant to share information responsibility with his subordinate. He works at the office late into the night. Not a big problem. You explain that the agency problem can hurt Doodad's bottom line, and you list some common agency costs. Which items below can be agency costs? Funds lost to embezzlement, class action lawsuits, bankruptcy expenses. Almost there. Wants to know what company can do to prevent mismanagement, some common incentives, annual bonuses. Stock options, perquisites, club memberships. There we go, almost done. or Margaret, that those incentives can also backfire. Can you match the benefits and drawbacks with the type of compensation? Stock options. Benefit is that managers' interest align with shareholders. A drawback. Manager motivated to meet specific. No. High cost and suitable for employees. Equitable to employees. I don't know. High salary. Still have salary first. Short-term targets hit at expense of long-term targets. Bonuses. Managers motivate meet specific targets. High salary. I see. The drawback. Bonuses. Okay, all good. Didn't want to read it out. You tell Margaret that stakeholders increasingly feel uncomfortable with how lavishly many CEOs are compensated. As a result, many countries, including the US, have addressed excessive CEO compensation by capping? Oh no, adopting say-on-pay rules, which give shareholders a non-binding vote? Sure. Ooh, 84%. All right, that's good enough. Finishing chapter 1. All good. That's it for today. Thank you, whoever watched and or accompanied me with this study session, and hope that help motivate you to study as well, whatever you're working on. I'm gonna do more of these so we can tune in together. All right, have a good one.